In a landmark decision, the U.S. Supreme Court has struck down the sweeping tariffs imposed under the Trump administration. On August 11, 2025, the court reasserted congressional authority over international trade, dismantling a key pillar of the America First economic policy. This ruling forces the United States to reconsider its place in the global economic order. The implications stretch far beyond steel and aluminum tariffs. They challenge the balance of power within the U.S. government. The court questioned whether a president could broadly use national security as justification for protectionist measures. For years, these tariffs sparked economic friction and retaliatory measures worldwide. With their legal foundation gone, a new chapter in American trade policy begins. For America's trading partners, this may be seen as an olive branch, a chance to repair relationships and return to a rules-based system. For China, it removes a major tool of U.S. economic pressure, forcing a strategic rethink. The global economic landscape has shifted dramatically, but uncertainty remains. The end of tariffs doesn't solve the underlying challenges. Job losses, unfair trade practices, and competition with China persist. The Supreme Court hasn't solved these problems, it's changed the rules of engagement. Responsibility now shifts back to Congress to find solutions. The gavel has fallen, but the hard work of building a sustainable, fair trade policy has just begun. Lawmakers, businesses, and citizens must now navigate this new reality. The world is watching as America redefines its role in global trade. To grasp today's ruling, we must revisit Section 232 of the 1962 Trade Expansion Act. This law allowed presidents to impose tariffs if imports threatened national security, a power used sparingly for decades. In 2018, the Trump administration invoked Section 232, arguing that a weakened steel and aluminum industry endangered national security. This broad interpretation was controversial, affecting not just adversaries but close allies like Canada and the EU. The tariffs, 25% on steel, 10% on aluminum, marked a sharp break from decades of U.S. free trade policy. The impact was immediate. Some U.S. metal producers benefited, but costs rose for automakers, construction, and manufacturers. Many of these costs were passed to consumers, fueling inflation. Trading partners retaliated with tariffs on iconic U.S. goods, hurting farmers and manufacturers. The resulting trade war created winners and losers, disrupting supply chains and global markets. Legal challenges soon followed, with critics arguing the administration overreached and used national security as a pretext for protectionism. These cases wound through the courts, culminating in the historic Supreme Court decision. The story of Section 232 is a lesson in how a rarely used law can reshape global trade. It also shows the risks of using national security as a catch-all justification for economic policy. The Supreme Court's ruling now closes this chapter. The debate over how to protect American industries while honoring global commitments continues. The legacy of Section 232 will shape trade debates for years to come. The world is left to adapt to a new era of American trade policy. The consequences of this shift are only beginning to unfold. On August 11, 2025, the Supreme Court ruled in American Institute for International Steel versus United States. In a 6-3 decision, the court found the executive branch had exceeded its authority under Section 232. Chief Justice Roberts wrote that Congress, not the President, holds the power to regulate foreign commerce. The ruling invoked the non-delegation doctrine. Congress cannot hand over core legislative powers without clear guidance. The court declared that national security cannot be a blank check for protectionism. Future tariffs for broad economic reasons now require explicit congressional approval. The decision narrows Section 232's scope to genuine national defense threats. The era of using Cold War-era laws for modern trade battles is over. The Supreme Court's decision sent shockwaves through global markets. The Dow surged, manufacturing stocks soared, while steel and aluminum shares tumbled. The US dollar dipped, reflecting expectations of increased imports. World leaders welcomed the ruling. Canada called it a victory for common sense, and the EU looked forward to restoring trade ties. In Washington, reactions split along party lines. Democrats praised the decision, while some Republicans decried it as undermining American jobs. Former President Trump called it a sad day for American workers. Labor unions in the steel industry voiced concern about the future. The legal battle is over, but the political debate on trade is just beginning. The world is watching how America will move forward. The economic impact of the ruling is already visible. Large corporations like Ford and GM will see lower production costs, potentially leading to cheaper cars and higher profits. The construction industry may benefit from cheaper steel, lowering costs for new projects. Small businesses face renewed competition from imports, but others, like craft breweries, will see relief from high material costs. Consumers should notice gradual price drops on goods that were hit by tariffs. The steel and aluminum industries, which revived under tariffs, now face global competition again. The government may seek new ways to support these sectors without reigniting trade wars. The ruling creates new winners and losers across the economy. The challenge is to support strategic industries while honoring the court's decision. The economic tremors are just beginning. The path forward will test policymakers and businesses alike. The Supreme Court's decision has redrawn the political map on trade. The debate is no longer just Democrat versus Republican, it's globalists versus nationalists within both parties. Pro-business Republicans quietly celebrate, while populists see betrayal. Democrats are split. Centrists welcome lower costs and better alliances, while progressives demand stronger labor and environmental standards. The ruling shifts trade policy power from the White House back to Congress. Lawmakers must now build coalitions to craft new trade laws, a daunting task in a polarized era. The coming months will see fierce debates as Congress grapples with its restored authority. The future of American trade will be shaped by these legislative battles. The stakes are high for workers, businesses, and the global economy. America's trade direction is once again up for debate. Beyond Washington, the Supreme Court's decision has real-world effects. Maria Sanchez, a Texas construction company owner, welcomes the end of steel price volatility. She can now plan and hire with confidence. For David Chen, a Pennsylvania steelworker, the ruling brings anxiety. Tariffs revived his local mill and now jobs are at risk. The American whiskey industry hopes the decision will end EU retaliatory tariffs, restoring access to key export markets. These stories reveal the trade-offs of any policy. What helps one community may hurt another. The Supreme Court's decision scrambles the equation again, creating new opportunities and challenges. Listening to these voices is essential to understanding the human impact of trade policy. No single policy benefits everyone equally. The debate over winners and losers will continue. The future of American industry depends on how these stories are heard in Congress. The stakes are personal, not just political. Trade policy is about people, not just numbers. Trade experts see the ruling as a major course correction. Jennifer Hillman, former WTO judge, calls it a victory for the rule of law and predictability, crucial for business planning. Scott Lincecum of the Cato Institute warns that core issues with China, subsidies, IP theft, remain unresolved. Experts agree, tariffs were a blunt tool. Now, the U.S. must develop a smarter, multilateral strategy. Some analysts are optimistic Congress can forge a bipartisan pro-worker trade agenda, with strong enforcement and support for key industries. Others fear gridlock, leaving the U.S. without a coherent trade strategy. The court has handed the football back to Congress. Will lawmakers advance it, or fumble? The world is watching for America's next move. The stakes are high for global stability and U.S. competitiveness. The challenge is to craft a policy that works for all Americans. The Supreme Court has closed one chapter and opened another in American trade policy. The immediate focus: will allies drop retaliatory tariffs and restore normal trade? Congress now holds the reins. Will it craft a modern bipartisan trade policy or fall into partisan gridlock? The best path forward includes targeted investments in competitiveness, resilient supply chains, and high-standard trade agreements. The U.S. must also develop a new strategy for China using multilateral tools and precise measures. The era of executive-driven trade policy is over. Democratic debate has returned. The future of American jobs prices and global standing is at stake. Citizens must stay informed and engaged as Congress shapes the next era. The road ahead is uncertain, but it's one we can help shape. America's trade future is now in the hands of its people and their representatives. The world is watching as the next chapter unfolds.